Welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have ELW 300, the first Noel. There is actually a lot to say about this carol, so I'll start from the top. The text and tune, or the origin of those, as you can see here in the hymnal, English traditional, are very obscure. We don't have much information. At least that was the beginning of my research. Then I realized, well, that's not so true. The first publication of the text was in 1823 in Davies Gilbert's Some Ancient Christmas Carols. So we have that text from there. It was originally 9 verses, but as we can see, it was condensed here to 5. 9 verses is a lot of singing. We'll get into that in a moment. But we look at the refrain and the words Noel, 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 Noel. We sing it a lot in this carol, 4 times each refrain. And Noel, maybe we don't realize this when we hear it on the radio, outside of the church, even when we're singing it ourselves. Noel, of course, from the French, Joyeux Noël, which means Merry Christmas. We are singing Christmas, but the word Noel comes from the Latin natalis, N-A-T-A-L-I-S, meaning birth. Some people would even say birthday, but let's say birth. So we're proclaiming Jesus' birth just by singing Noel. In a way, it's kind of singing, if you could say, or maybe surmise, code. We're singing like a code of Jesus' birth. Because Noel, maybe some don't realize it means Christmas, but it also relates to birth. The tune is maybe from the 18th century. We do know the arrangement, 1871, was completed by John Stainer, the organist that we see below here. John Stainer was a very famous English organist. He has a great method that I use in teaching for learning the organ. I play many of the pedal exercises regularly because it's just a great method to learn the organ with. But also, he taught at Oxford University. He was also at St. Paul's Cathedral. So his arrangement makes the first Noel actually sound a lot better than it is. Now, let me first say that before you think I'm sort of down-talking or speaking negatively of this carol, I'm not. It's a very beautiful carol. In fact, I find it quite genius that its construction. So we don't really know. Some people, because there's so much repeat, that it's so repetitive that they believe it could be a descant. They may be right about that. I'm not so sure. But it's easy to teach because the first line just repeats, even though that line has a lot of similarities. Now, when we get to the refrain, believe it or not, it's the same thing. Then it changes here with that lead. And then it's the end of that first phrase, in this case A. So it didn't take a lot of time, maybe, to put this together. But what we're forgetting here is it's a great carol for singing because it's easy to teach. And it moves primarily by step, so we can also teach and learn the steps or the seconds that are placed all throughout, almost everywhere. And thirdly, it also is great because John Stainer made it a wonderful arrangement. So when we listen to this refrain, which I want to play on the principal 8, just to make a point here, listen to the harmonies. Let's make the pedal a little softer there. Lovely thirds that are placed, that we sing, many of us have sung year after year. Those are John Stainer's. Really, the melody itself is not that exciting. So thanks to John Stainer, the organist, and interestingly enough, we've lost many of his hymns, but not this harmonization of this tune, which we still don't know where it's from, probably 17th century English. So because of that, and because this carol received so much critique because it's so boring by tune, and so many things are repetitive, which I already mentioned that I don't fully agree with that, I've noticed that it's a great hymn / carol that lends itself to text painting. So, for example, we have in verse 2, they looked up and saw a star. So why not use the Zimmerstern, stern representing star, to sound that? How about in verse 3, and by the light of that same star, 3 wise men came from country far, just to bring focus to that text, maybe play it in unison octaves. Verse 4, this star drew near to the northwest, over Bethlehem it took its rest. So the star moving and then coming over Bethlehem, a neat way to do that is creating a trill and just giving that feel. Then, using the arrangement of Tertius Noble in the last verse, when we have then entered in those wise men 3, full reverently upon their knee, having that beautiful pedal point there, really brings that out. Not just the theme of the entering in, but that reverence that comes with it. So here is the first Noel. So again, a great carol for Epiphany Sunday, which we don't get for a long time actually on Sunday again. It won't happen until 2030 as far as I know. But I want to thank Richard Shepard. I used his material for the introduction, and for the last verse, of course, Tertius Noble, the great organist. So thank you very much for listening to Hymn of the Week.